Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today in our InfoSec seminar organized by the Information Systems Security and Assurance Management Department in Mihalcheon School of Management. We begin our February InfoSec seminar by acknowledging that although this seminar is being held virtually, Concordia University of Edmonton is located on Treaty 6 territory and a traditional meeting ground and home for many indigenous peoples, including Cree, Salto, Blackfoot, Métis, and Nakota Sioux peoples. We respect and acknowledge this. We are pleased to welcome Dr. Sharif Al-Barrad, the Interim Dean of Management, and Dr. Andreas Gluzo, the Deputy Provost, who have joined us today for this great InfoSec seminar. In this seminar, we invite you to 3 interesting presentations from current ISSAM students. Each presentation is around 20 minutes, including Q&A. So the first talk is about implementing and employing network security monitoring using the Security Onion platform. The speakers will be Ahmed Yassin, Anirudra Gupta, Ahil Vivekandahan, and Danishwaran Nathan. So please go ahead, guys, and briefly introduce yourself.
Okay, I guess I'll go first. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. I'm Anirudra Gupta, and I'm one of the speakers today. And my team is Dhyanesh, Ahmed, Ahil, as Professor just introduced. And we will be talking about the implementing and employing network security monitoring using Security Onion. Myself, I'm a cloud engineer. I work mostly with Azure Platform, DevOps, and Security. And I'm also a teaching assistant here at MISSIM for System Security and Digital Forensics. Today it'll be me who's starting the presentation. I'll start with talking about what we've been up to for our Capstone 2 project here at final semester of our Master of Information System Security course. And then we'll have Dhyanesh presenting as well, and he'll give us some demo on where we are up to so far. All right. So I'll begin talking about, so this is our agenda, right? We're going to talk about some scenarios, what we went up to for the Capstone project, and how we have implemented it so far as well. So first we have, first, I guess most of us are familiar with me and my team are here are the students, graduate students for the final year at the MISSIM course here at Concordia University of Edmonton. And yeah, so for this project, we have to come up with a network architecture, employ, design it specifically with the network security monitoring in mind. So what we did was, for our project, we came up with a fictitious corporation called Frostbite Corp. And it has a data analytics web offering where they want to have a new data centers by Q3 of 2025. And they hired us as infrastructure and security architects to design a plan with network security as a priority for them. Okay. We have systems like networking components, production servers, identity management, hardening, network security monitoring, and we also have an attack simulation exercise, part of this project. Now, all of this was supervised by one of our professor here at Concordia, Dr. Dale, and we will be using his own developed tool, OneNet Control, to implement all this in a virtual environment. Okay. So now I will talk about what we came up as an architect for this specific scenario. And then we will have Dhyanesh show us what we've been up to and what has been implemented so far. So next slide, I will show the architecture, but it's going to be a bit of a busy slide. So I guess brace for it. So yeah, as we can see, a lot of information. This is what we designed as part of this semester and even the last. The thing is, I can't really zoom in that so you can see it better. So what I'm going to do is switch my screen to a different window, and I assume you should be able to see it better, right? So this is the architecture we come up. I can zoom in here as well and everything. Microsoft doesn't let you do that in the PowerPoint for some reason, but yeah. Now, this is the architecture for Frostbite Corp. That's our fictitious corporation. And we designed this over a span of 2 years, capstone 1 and capstone 2. Then in this capstone 1, it was more of a design part. And in this current semester, capstone 2 is where we are implementing all of it. Okay. And just so to keep in mind, it's not just 4 of us implementing all of this, right, from the scratch. There is more, there are, I think, total of 20 people, including 4 of us, and they're different teams. So some might be configuring the Windows-based servers here on the right. Some are configuring the attack simulation exercise. One particular team is dedicated to install the security and configure it, tuning it, and so on. Okay. Um, so I and my team, we majorly were part of designing this architecture and implementing the core infrastructure. So core infrastructure is your, all the bridges you see here, the networks, the routing for them, the bridges, even the configuring all the interfaces where you're going to see the traffic and so on. Okay. Now, uh, where do I start? So let's start with from the top to bottom, I guess. So we have this, internet area somewhere here, where we have this new lab, which is our actual physical server here at Concordia University of Edmonton. And then it has a public IP, which we use. And I guess, if you are, if you have covered the network security course here at Concordia, you must have came across this IP where you go ahead and use this to create your virtual machines and access them, right? So we have that here as a public IP. Then we have a tap interface, which lets us connect the physical machine to this lab infrastructure virtualized. It's all done via QEMU. That's a Linux open source virtualized environment, and on top of it, it's wrapped with VNet control. That's developed by Professor Dale. So we have DM's environment where we have the NATing going on, so like a public IP, then private IP. Then on every of these network, either DMZ, production, IT ops, you will see this security onion sensors, right? So what it does is it takes the mirror traffic. So all the bridges are configured to send the mirror traffic um, to these sensors. And what those sensors do, even in this environment, it just sends all the traffic to the manager node here. And then I guess our incident response team or just SOC team, they will be able to log into the server and see all the logs coming from all these different networks, and then set up alerts for them, analyze the alerts, set up rules to get more info, some stuff like that. Now in the DMZ, that's the usual network where you have all your let's say VPN and stuff like that. We don't have a VPN, but at least we have a NAT server, so we put that there. And then kind of a router, one interface of that, which helps us make these different networks. So we have IT ops network, which has the identity server as a domain controller, file servers for sharing, and in the production network we have the production web server for our Frostbite Corp. And we intentionally put a vulnerable host as well. Here we are using Metasploitable 3 specifically for that. Okay. Now, another network, we have a client network where if someone needs a forensics workstation, probably our DFIR team, and a client workstation in case we just wanna, we have a client who has to be joined to a domain and uh, they want to do their own thing. Okay. Now we do have DHCP server, and that's specifically for this network, where it's going ahead and assigning all these attacking VM, which is a Kali Linux client machine or workstation, DHCP IP. And then all of these other networks have these servers, so they don't really need DHCP, so they're just going to get the static IP, which we have mentioned with their particular interface, right? And once all of that is set up, we have a security onion team that has configured the security onion as a manager node, sensor node, and so on, after we implemented all the networking infrastructure. And finally, there will be a team who will be doing an attack. Either one would be an internal attack, one would be a external attack on this vulnerable host. And the reason of doing an attack simulation is that we can smoke test or stress test our network security monitoring, which is the security on it, right? So when there's an attack happening, either it's an internal or external, we should be able to at least get some alerts, right? And we specifically chose these Windows machine because they generate a lot of traffic. So we will be able to, we should be able to filter out what is legitimate traffic, what is an attack traffic, false positive and stuff like that. So that's the kind of the whole architecture, and we have implemented a lot of it. Only thing I'm aware of is the actual system configuration. Maybe some of them were left, but yeah, that was mostly what we came up with. Now I'll pass it on to Dhyanesh, and he will be showcasing some of the things we have already. And yeah, over to you, Dhyanesh.
Yeah. Thank you, Anirudra. Let me share my screen. So myself, I'm Dhyanesh. I am currently an intern at Edmonton International Airport, working as a cybersecurity analyst. I'm a MISSAM student, and I have 2 years experience working in Ernst & Young as a senior cybersecurity analyst. So back to the topic. Now we will look at the different components that can help build the virtual environment. We start with VNetCTL. It stands for Virtual Network Control. It is a open source BSD per licensed platform that helps configure and manage virtual internetworks. And then QEMU stands for Quick Emulation. It's again an open source emulator that makes use of dynamic binary translation to emulate the operations of an OS. And TMUX stands for Terminal Multiplexer. Uh, it it creates several several pseudo terminals that can be used to run multiple programs using a single connection, especially when we are connecting using SSH. In our case, that is what we are doing. And VDE stands for Virtual Direct Ethernet. So it emulates the network connection between different virtual machines. And this is how a topology file looks like. And this is just a basic diagram of our network architecture. And the different components of a topology file are virtual machine name, the display, and the image. The memory over here, defaultly the memory is in MB. If we want it to be in GB, we should specify it. And then the driver, and then the image type. We initially tried VMDK images, but it didn't work. So we converted it to ISO images, and then the interfaces. And this is the base image that is in the home directory. So whenever VNetCTL reads the topology file, the image that is specified over there points to this images in the home directory, and then it will call upon these images to build the OS. And we have established network routes using static networks, and it is configured in HCRC.local. The reason it is configured in HCRC.local is that it traditionally executes after startup program. So whenever you boot a machine, the script inside HCRC.local, it runs, and then the machine gets assigned the IP addresses and the various routes.
Excuse me, Nathan, excuse me, you have 3 more minutes.
Sorry?
You have 3 more minutes.
Oh, okay. So, and then this is the span port. Span port is important for to mirror traffic to network security monitoring tool, which is the Security Onion. Basically, what it does is any traffic that goes to an endpoint, it comes to a bridge, and any traffic that hits the bridge will get mirrored via the span port, and then it goes to the forwarding node of Security Onion, which then pushes it to the manager node, which analyzes the data, and then it creates alert based on any malicious activity. And we configured a tap interface for internet access. So tap interface is, what it does is it creates a bridge between the VM and the physical host. The physical host is the New Lab one. So it creates a bridge between the VM and the physical host, and the physical host has access to the internet. So that's how our VM has access to the internet too. So the initial plan was to show a demo of all these things, but since we are under time constraint, I'll move on with the next slides. And the next step is, so the future step is to configure the Security Onion. A team is working on it, and to configure AD, DHCP, web server, and file server, and implement packet filtering. As of now, the packet filtering is disabled. We have not implemented it. Once the attack simulation team does the attack and they're comfortable with it, we will enable the packet filtering and leave minor misconfigurations so that using their network reconnaissance tool, they can find where and what the misconfiguration is and then perform their attack. And thank you so much. That's all.
Thank you guys for your interesting presentation. Any questions? Do we have any questions? Any questions from our first year students?
I guess we explained it well then.
Yes, Elizabeth, please go ahead.
Thank you, guys. Awesome presentation. Quick question for you guys.
Yeah.
What has been the worst attack you've experienced? How did you handle the incident?
So as of now, we don't have, the attack team haven't done any attack simulation, but let me share my screen and explain it to you. Yeah. So what they're planning to do is they are planning to compromise the Metasploitable 3 using a rogue Kali machine, and then they are trying to extract exfiltrate the information from the file server. So that is what the attack they are planning to do, but it has not been done yet. So yeah, do you have any further questions?
Yeah, so we'll take one question from Benoit, one last question from Benoit.
Yeah, I was just curious to know if you had any like how has been your experience in running this entire lab simultaneously with on the existing hardware that you have, and if you've had any like resource bottleneck from I don't know, disk or RAM perspective, that kind of stuff.
No, the existing physical machine is very well capable of running these VMs. So I haven't had any issues in running the virtual machines. The one thing is that with Security Onion, initially it went to a kernel panic while running it. So that consumed a lot of resources, and then we overcome that issue after that. But otherwise, the physical host is very much capable of running these machines. Yeah.
Nice.
Even-
And then
even
one last
right
question
now-
about like the distributed aspect of Security Onion. How is that? Like that's something I've never played with myself, but it's
so we can see that
how-
each network over here, it has a forwarder node, and each bridge we have a span port that mirrors the network traffic to the forwarder node, and then forwarder node then pushes the network traffic to the manager node. Manager node is present in the IT ops network over here. It also has a forwarder node for it. So the manager node's only responsibility will be to collect all data and to analyze and throw alerts if it sees anything malicious. So this is how the configuration is done, distributed configuration is done.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, please go ahead, Dale. This will be the last comment for this presentation. Yes, please.
Yeah, I was just going to give Benoit a more specific answer to his question. So I'm looking at the machine right now with all of those machines running, or almost all of them. We're using 36 gigs out of a total of 376 gigs of memory. And we are 92 to 94% idle on the CPUs, and there must be about 20 of those or something in and around that. So we could do this 15 times probably with some swap space. Yeah, that's it. That's what I wanted to say.
Nice.
So thank you so much, Danish, Aniruddha, Ahmed, and Ahil for your interesting work. Keep up the good work, guys. Thank you. So now let's move to the second talk. So the second talk is about streamlining security, mapping NIST SB 853, SOC 2 and US CJIS policy to ISO IEC 27001 2022 for service providers, small and medium enterprises by Damilula Ainu Messingen and Emmanuel Kiwamo. So please go ahead.
Thank you, Doctor. Hello, everyone. My name is Damilola Inomesa, and I'm a second-year ISSAM student here at Concordia University. I currently act in capacity as the ISACA student group president, and I'm also a research assistant and information security intern with Technology North. We'll be presenting, myself and Emmanuel Kiwamu, who is a second-year ISSAM student as well. We'll be presenting our research topic project on streamlining information security compliance for service provider SMEs. And this research project is sponsored by MyTax Canada and Technology North. And it is supervised by Dr. Sergey Bukatov and Dr. Eslam G. Abdullahi. So yes, the agenda for today, basically, I'll be taking us through the background of the research project, the struggles that SMEs face with compliance, and why SMEs need multi-standard compliance. We'll also be giving you a brief overview of what our research goals are, what the problem statements are, and we'll dive deeper. Emmanuel will dive deeper into the comparative analysis and the mapping of the control areas, what our findings were, and the recommendations for small, medium-sized enterprises. Just as we all know, technology is evolving, the digital landscape is expanding. So cyber threats and threat actors are, also abreast of these technology trends. They are also, becoming more sophisticated. And very recently, we have seen that their prime targets have been small and medium-sized enterprises. And the reason is because they see small and medium-sized enterprises as low-hanging fruits due to their limited resources for security. Service provider SMEs, especially due to the nature of their businesses, which cut across different industries, the healthcare industry, finance industry, IT industry, they're entrusted with a vast amount of data. And this is also one of the reasons why malicious actors find them very attractive. The most common cyber threat attacks that are impacted on small and medium-sized enterprises are phishing scams, which oftentimes leads to data theft and ransomware attacks. A recent study by TELUS, while we're conducting our research, we found this data. A recent study by TELUS showed that about 60% of Canadian small businesses have the belief that they are too small to be targets of cyber criminals. However, the same study showed that 46% of the recently reported breaches were targeted or impacted upon small and medium-sized enterprises that have below 1,000 employees. And this begs the question on why small, medium-sized enterprises struggle, or what exactly is the reason why they struggle with compliance. As mentioned earlier, some of the reasons are the limited budget that they have. Some of them most small and medium-sized enterprises, they lack the financial resources to implement comprehensive cybersecurity solutions. They are unable to hire dedicated IT security personnel. Also, they have some time constraints because of their lean teams and the multiple priorities that they have, which is usually to grow the business. They struggle to allocate time for cybersecurity initiatives. Another major reason, which is the major reason for our research project, is the complexity of standards. Enterprise level standards, for example, like the ISO 27001, they're very complex and they require time, they require expertise to be able to, help for them to be able to use it, to protect their cybersecurity landscape. We're also going to be speaking on why you may ask why do organizations need, or why do they require multi-compliance? There are diverse reasons why SMEs, service provider SMEs especially, why they need multi-standard compliance. One of the reasons is to meet the diverse regulatory requirements. Some industries are mandated to comply with multiple regulations to be able to operate legally. For example, in the finance industry, it is very important, it is mandatory for you, if you want to operate in the finance industry, to be compliant to the PCI DSS, to the SOX, to the Basel, amongst other information security standards. Also for SMEs that are looking to expand into different or go into different geographic locations, which is usually one of the goals of small medium-sized enterprises. For you to be able to operate in another region, you must meet up with the local compliance standards. Multi-compliance also gives competitive advantage in the sense that showing that you're certified to multiple frameworks increases the credibility and helps you. For example, if you're bidding for a contract as a small and medium-sized enterprise, it gives you a competitive edge amongst your peers. So all of these are the reasons why we decided to do a research on this topic. Our major question is, how can we help small medium-sized enterprises simplify multi-framework compliance without the overwhelming costs and the complexities that I just mentioned? So to do this, we decided to create a structured approach for small medium-sized enterprises to achieve this multi-framework compliance by aligning 4 important information security standards, which are the ISO 27001 2022, the NIST 853, the SOC 2, and the CJIS. And I'd like to mention that these standards were selected due to their widespread adoption, structural control frameworks, and the relevance in securing diverse environments. I'm sure we're all very familiar with all of this. I mean, the NIST, the ISO, and the SOC 2. The only one that we're probably not very familiar with is the US CJIS, and it was selected due to the projects that we're currently handling with Technology Notes. It is basically a US-based policy that provides guidance for protecting and sharing sensitive criminal justice information. I'll be handing over to Emmanuel now to dive deeper into what our findings are in this project. It would be giving us the different comparative analysis, what we came about, and the recommendations for small, medium-sized enterprises that are looking to implement multi-framework compliance. Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you, Dami, and good afternoon to everyone. My name is Emmanuel Kiwamo. I'm a second-year ISSAM student and also the vice president of the ISACA student group. And I'm also a research assistant and security intern at Technology Nuts. And for the purpose of this project, like she mentioned, the project's objective was to conduct a comparative analysis and mapping of controls using the ISO 27001 as our baseline control. So we decided to use this ISO 27001 because of it's an international recognized standard for establishing and promoting information system security management systems. This standard is focused on identifying and managing risks in an organization. And like we all know, is divided, the 2022 version is made up of 93 control requirements. And for the purpose of this research, we use the 4 annex areas to conduct our mapping. So the first area is the organizational controls. For the purpose of this presentation, we also just extracted like 3 control requirements for each annex area to shed some light on how we conducted our mapping. So for example, in roles and responsibilities in information security, we identified that all the 4 standards that were mentioned, ISO, using the control area in ISO for roles and responsibility, it also emphasized, all the standards also emphasizes the need for clear security roles and responsibilities in an organization. And also in access control and segregation of duties, all the standards also emphasize the need for implementing stringent access control policies in terms of least privilege principles, and also ensuring segregation of duties. And also importantly, they also emphasize the need for incident management in terms of focusing on prompt detection and response. So we can see here from the screenshots, this is just an example of all the different 93 controls of how we map them across all the 4 standards using ISO as our baseline. So in terms of people controls, all the standards also emphasize the need for screening and access control in terms of ensuring that background checks are conducted for all staffs and security clearances are gotten for individuals that need access to sensitive information. And also in terms of training and awareness, we identified that all the standards also emphasize the need for role-based security training, which you can see from our screenshots here, that the US CJIS, because it's a criminal related criminal investigation, criminal justice information related security policy, it also emphasizes different levels of security awareness trainings. And also in physical controls, ISO also emphasized the need for physical perimeter security, which involves the need for controlled entry, need for restricted access, which we could also see aligned in the other 3 standards, where they also focus on the need for managing access and ensuring authorization before access is granted. And also, all the standards also emphasize the need for handling sensitive media and sensitive information. As you can see here, ISO has a control for secure disposal and reuse of equipment, which you can see maps to different controls in the other standards that we mentioned. And finally, technological controls, ISO emphasizes the need for endpoint security as well as other controls. Endpoint security in terms of encryption, in terms of device management, remote access controls as well. And also emphasizes the need for PAM, which is privileged access management, enforcing the need for least privilege and ensuring that periodic access log reviews are conducted to ensure that authorized users have access to the critical systems that they have access to. And as you can see here from the screenshot as well, in terms of cryptography, all the standards also mention the need for cryptography, and these are the control areas that map out to the ISO control on cryptography. So if you're implementing the use of cryptography in the ISO, you can replicate that process and achieve these same control requirements in the other standards. So going forward, I'll just mention some recommendations we have for SMEs that are looking to achieve multi-compliance. It's very important to conduct comparative analysis. This helps you identify areas that are similar, like what we've just done, identify areas that overlap, and helps you create a structured approach to implementing or achieving multi-compliance. And it's also important to achieve or adopt a risk-based approach. This helps you prioritize the controls based on the likelihood and impact of the risks to your organization. And also in this environment where we have AI automation, it's also good to use automation tools to streamline the process of audit and monitoring. So there are tools like Vanta and some other automation tools that organizations can use that will help you streamline this whole process. And also, in addition, in some situations where organizations cannot handle this process, you could also engage with external experts like companies like Deloitte, PwC that work to render services to organizations in need to comply with information security standards. And finally, we also recommend that organizations should adopt a maturity model approach, which helps you start with basic security controls, and also you progressively improve those controls, and overall you get a better cybersecurity posture. So in conclusion, this project was just focused on identifying areas that maps and overlaps across the 4 standards that we mentioned, using ISO 27001 as our baseline because of its use as a foundational framework or standard for information security management systems. So for organizations and SMEs looking to achieve multi-compliance, you can use ISO 27001 and these standards that we chose the standards like Damilola mentioned as a result of the project we're currently working on, and using the recommendations we have identified, it will help organizations achieve multi-standard compliance perfectly. And some acknowledgement, this research is funded by MyTax and Technology Nuts, and thanks to Concordia and also our professors, Dr. Segi and Dr. Islam. And also this research paper was also accepted to a conference in France, and yeah, are some of our references, and thank you for your time.
Thank you guys so much for your interesting presentation, and congratulations for your paper, and you have another paper as well in progress. That's good work. So questions? Do we have any questions? Yes, NG, please go ahead.
Hi, everybody. It's good to see you all, especially Emmanuel and Damilola. It's so good to hear from you. And now you're presenting. The last time we met, you were my student, and I'm so happy to see that you're running instead of just crawling. So that's pretty good. So the question I do have is in relation to the data that you presented at the beginning of your presentation about small, medium size enterprises. I think you said the data came from TELUS, and I'm just trying to find out if if that data took into consideration the impact of cloud computing. I say this because even though small and medium-sized enterprises may have limited resources, there's the tendency these days that they all move their services to the cloud so they can leverage the security controls that are available in the cloud. And when there's a breach in the cloud, many of those small and medium-sized enterprises get impacted. A good example is Power School. If you're aware of Power School breach right now, it's one of the burning issues in the country and internationally, where a number of schools in Alberta and around the country are using Power School resources, which is a cloud service. And you can term them small and medium enterprises, if you will. But because of the problem, how the breach happened is that a bad actor got access to a power source component of the Power School cloud system and compromised all these schools around the country and internationally. So how does that play in the data that you provided? This is what I'm wondering.
Yeah, so just to respond to that, so the data we got was from TELUS, like I mentioned, and for their research based on the information that was given from their websites, their attention was more focused on AI-driven cyber attacks, deep fakes in terms of social engineering, as well in terms of supply chain attacks and IoT-based threats. So there was not much focus on cloud computing or companies that implementing cloud security measures or migrating their services to cloud to help or leverage the cloud security tools to help improve their posture. So even in terms of the project we are currently working on, the company is also trying to migrate to cloud to help reduce the threats that comes with controlling the physical issues with maintaining a server room or maintaining access control to certain systems or certain critical data. So, but for the purpose of the statistic that was given, it was only focused on, or it was gotten from supply chain attacks, IoT-based attacks, social engineering like phishing emails and all those sort of attacks. So I won't say it's a general for all the
Okay.
SMEs, but yes, it's a large amount, I would say.
Oh, okay. There were certain parameters that we considered for
Yeah.
that. Okay, that sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Damilola and Emmanuel, for your. Thank you, Damilola and Emmanuel, for your interesting work. So keep up the good work, guys. Thank you. So let's move on to the third talk about securing Internet of Medical Things devices with an enhanced SLAM algorithm by Ruth Ogadina. So please go ahead, Ruth.
Okay. I hope everyone can see my screen.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so a brief introduction would be, my name is Rita Gardiner, and I'm currently in my second year at Concordia University. I'm studying to acquire a master's degree in Information System Security Management, and I'm also currently the VP of Academic Affairs and External Relations for the Graduate Student Association. So today, I would like to talk about my capstone, which is based on the enhancement of the secure light with integrity mechanism algorithm, which is an algorithm that was developed especially for IoMT devices, which are also known as Internet of Medical Things devices. And so here's some information about.
Make your slides full screen.
Can you see it yet?
Yes, but like, can you make it like full screen?
Okay. I didn't know that it wasn't on full screen.
You stopped sharing your screen. If you share your screen, you can just hit on F5, and that should take you to.
Yes, perfect. Yes.
Can you see it now?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, so I've given a brief introduction about myself, and I would like to also introduce my professor, Dr. ISSAM Abdallah, who has really helped me in answering all my questions and guiding me throughout the whole process of embarking on this project from inception till now. And this is a brief overview of what I'm going to be looking at today. So I'm going to start with the introduction to IoMT devices, live cryptography algorithms, and tell you a little bit about the problem and the motivations for this particular project. I would also talk to you about my objectives, what I have achieved and hope to see to achieve by the end of the project, and introduce you to the SIM algorithm and tell you about some of the enhancements I have made and why they were necessary. So first of all, Internet of Things devices are basically devices that are designed to help you with your everyday life. They are devices that were naturally, when they were first developed, they did not have internet connectivity, but now they are termed smart because they're able to retrieve data, process data, and transmit data. By doing this, they have been able to make life easier for a whole lot of people. For example, everyone is very acquainted with smartwatches, whereby you could easily just check your heart rate by having a smartwatch without the need to go to a hospital to get that and then wait for really long appointment times. And because of the popularity of these devices and the kind of private data that these devices handle, there's a very important need to secure them and not just secure them physically, but also secure the data that they are making use of and transmitting in the process. So I would like to start by giving you some insights and some statistics to understand what the current IoMT landscape is like, so you could have an understanding of the need for this project. Currently, 86% of Canadian hospitals and their respective physicians have already integrated EMR systems. And EMR systems are electronic medical record systems whereby they don't need to have like a very big store of documents like they used to in the old times. Now they could just have one central system where they could easily retrieve a patient's information and administer the right care to them. This
The information that these people administer and handle and manage is known as EPHI, which is called electronically protected health information. And this information is very, very important to take care of as threat actors seek to, as it includes lots of private information such as a person's full name or her credit card information that she used to pay the hospital. It also includes health records that are very personal. And you may wonder, why are health records, why should they be secure? Why should a person feel vulnerable with regards to the health information? Well, a lot of people have complained, and due to research, people have found out that people have been ostracized by their diagnosis. For example, people that have certain conditions that are life-threatening, like cancers, immediately their occupations and their supervisors had found out about that, they had given them multiple notices so that they would leave and then replace them. So a lot of people find the need to secure their private information very important. For example, there are some news articles that talk about certain actors, which after they had disclosed a certain condition they were battling with, started losing roles. But situations like this, and for many other people that may not be privileged enough to have the financial resources to protect their information, it's very important that the organizations also make sure that they do not get compromised due to data breaches. So this is an example of IoMT applications in healthcare. For example, in the hospital, we have medical equipment that are able to transmit the data from how you can see them physically to straight down to the centralized electronic medical records, or the AMR systems. There's also an example of a patient that could be wearing a wearable heart monitor, or she could also have a pacemaker in her heart that is able to transmit data about her current heart rate and its current lifespan. And all this information is very key it's very important to identify and take note of all these devices that are handling EPHI, because we need to understand how threat actors can work, or how they can move towards compromising a person's records or the multiple records that a organization could have. So this is another trend I would like to talk about, showing different breaches that hospitals have been faced, whereby they had EMR systems that were already integrated and faced data breaches that not only affected the customers that they had, but also affected them as they lost millions of dollars. And it was also noted that from 2012 to 2019, the amount of the amount of financial resources that the healthcare industry had lost had doubled in size from $27 million to $41 million in such a short period of time. And that just shows you how much care needs to be taken into securing this information that is handled by these devices and systems. So I would like to talk about my problem definition now. So as I mentioned earlier, it's very important to make sure that IoMT devices are secure. And currently, the possibilities of an IoMT being susceptible to a denial of service attack is at 95%, which is very, very high. And organizations do not only face the risk of losing their reputation with regards to their patients, but they also face the possibility of being fined millions of dollars and losing millions in revenue due to these breaches. Now, the AMR systems and the other devices, the other healthcare devices that are IoMT devices, are lightweight devices in the sense of they don't have as much computational power as your typical laptop or your typical smartphone. These devices were created specifically to serve one purpose. For example, the pacemaker was designed specifically to help monitor a person's heart rate and also push the heart to pump more blood around the body. Because they have such a defined objective, they have minimum resources as well, so that they do not because they're very small in nature. So the main problem was to secure the AMR systems and other IoMT devices in the digital healthcare landscape by creating and enhancing the SLIM algorithm so that it would be able to further protect EPHI. So some of my listed objectives for the project was to mainly create an enhanced algorithm for IoMT devices that utilize RFIDs, such as digital clipboards and smartwatches, and heart rate monitors. And another objective of this project was to create a new substitution and permutation box, which would improve the diffusion and the non-linearity of the ciphertext and that will be generated. Another objective was to create a more secure random key generation mechanism, as the current one implemented by the SLIM algorithm is not very secure and is very prone to brute force attacks. The final objective of this project was to increase the input block size while maintaining security, such that it would be able to process more data in a shorter period of time, while still prioritizing security and not having to slow down so much. So this is some information about the SLIM algorithm. It was first published on the 3rd of November 2010. And the thing about algorithms is that they usually take a number of years before they are put out into the world, because multiple people have to verify that the ciphertext generated by these algorithms are good enough and have no correlation with their plain text, such that people can actually trust in their usage in securing information. It was specifically designed for medical devices that make use of RFIDs, and it currently just uses a non-linear 4x4 substitution box, which is the minimum size of S boxes that are used in cryptographic systems, and it also uses a 4x4 permutation box, which is fixed. It also has a fixed main key, which is 80 bits in size, and utilizes and from this 80 bits main key, it generates 32 subkeys, which are used for each corresponding round. But it doesn't have any integrity verification process, such that certain devices that make use of this particular algorithm do not have any way of knowing that the information that the encrypted information that they have received is the same type of information that was obtained after the encryption process. And it makes use of a physical structure, which means that it uses different keys for different rounds throughout the encryption process. So starting with the key generation process, as I said earlier, the SLIM algorithm makes use of an 80-bit key, and this 80-bit key is the first 5 subkeys are generated from this 80-bit key by dividing them into 5 equal 16-bit subkeys. Afterwards, they are passed through this particular flowchart. It starts with dividing the 80-bit key into two sides, left and right. The one side being LSB, which stands for least significant bit, and second side which stands for MSB, which stands for most significant bits. And as you can see, the LSB is shifted to the left side twice before being XORed with the original MSB key, and that is partially the substitution function using the 4x4 substitution box. Afterwards, the current key for a round, which in this case is key 6 here, is generated by XORing the output of circularly shifting the MSB to the left 3 times. And this process is repeated till the final subkey is gotten, which is the 32nd subkey. The reason why we have 32 subkeys, why we need 32 subkeys, is because the same algorithm makes use of 32 rounds in total.
So excuse me, Ruth, so you have 3 more minutes.
Okay, so the same algorithm just starts by, it's a symmetric algorithm, which means that it makes use of the same key in encryption and decrypting, and each block size is 32 bits. So no matter how large a file is, it has to be broken down into 32 bits before being passed into the algorithm. And as you can see here, I already explained that the input is 32 bits. So after being XORed with the 16-bit key here, it is passed to the substitution to the 4x4 substitution function, which is why you can see 4s here, which is the output that is generated after passing them to the 4 for substitution box, then it's passed through the permutation function, and then it's XORed with the left-hand side, which is untouched. And this makes for round 1. And for every single key that was generated in the previously explained key generation process, there are 32 rounds that that particular key is supposed to process. The decryption process is the same, but it just does the same processes but in reverse. So this is the structure of my enhanced algorithm. As you can see, there's a difference because the input size has been increased from 32 bits to 40 bits, and the substitution box now makes use of 5 by 5 substitution boxes. And this substitution box was created, was tested for it went through some series of security analysis, as it was non-linear and there's no correlation between each number that is in the substitution box. And because of this, it has improved the diffusion of the ciphertext generated by the algorithm. Another enhancement I made was to create a new cryptographically secure key generation mechanism, such that the key would not be hard-coded every single time that an encryption transaction is going to take place. In my proposed algorithm, in my enhanced algorithm, the key is changed every day, or at least for every hour of the day, such that it would be less susceptible to brute force attacks. Because if the key is fixed and an attacker is able to get it, he'll be able to access all forms of information. And this was this mechanism was used by a threat actor in compromising the advanced company in the UK. So this is the difference between my S-box and my this is the difference between my S&P boxes and the original S&P boxes. The original S&P boxes, as you can see, are much smaller in size. They just moved from 0 to 16. But my S-box is now, because I have increased the size of the input, my S-box is now 32 bits instead of 16. And my P-box is now 20 bits. And this also helps in making sure that while still prioritizing security, the new algorithm can still process data in a shorter period of time. So this is a summary of the enhancements I made. I improved the key scheduling system by using a cryptographically secure random number generator. I also increased the block size to allow for fast encryption processes while still prioritizing security. And my result was that my algorithm only it was only 0.17% slower than the original algorithm, while still being more secure and having multiple security features. And the new larger S-box, which since it's not restricted from 0 to 16, it allows for more diffusion and less correlation between the ciphertext generated and the encrypted files generated and the original inputs. So some future work that I hope to see from this capstone would be to see how we can help make sure that the AMR systems and IoMT devices can be cryptographically secure from the advent of quantum computers, although they're already here. And the lightweight cryptographic algorithms are just designed for low resource IoMT devices. I would like to see how far, and also like to work in furthering this cause. I would like to see how well these devices would fare when quantum computers become a really rampant thing, and also when more processors are developed specifically for lightweight cryptography. More processors are developed specifically for IoMT devices that allow them to process information very quickly and encrypt them quickly as well. So here are some references, and thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you so much, Ruth, for your interesting presentation and for your interesting work. Thank you. Any questions? We can have one question. Any questions? Okay, so I have a quick question. Will you perform performance analysis and security analysis to your enhancements?
Yes, I'll perform this. I already checked the speed of my algorithm to the original one, and it just had it was just 0.17% slower than the original algorithm. So I'm going to test it for more differential analysis to test how well is it performing man-in-the-middle attacks.
Okay, great. So thank you again for your interesting presentation. Keep up the good work. So thank you for all our presenters, and please provide your name and email in the linked form so we send you your certificate. And also I wish to see you all on our next InfoSec seminar on March 12. Thank you, everyone.